Welcome to Best Kept Secrets Travel, episode 27. My name's Morgan.
And my name's Will, and on today's episode, we're doing our first ever Best Kept Secrets Travel interview with our first special guest who we're about to do an intro. But in the episode, you're going to be listening to everything from guns being pointed in faces, meeting strangers, and best kept secrets. So, let's roll the intro.
Roll the intro.
Best friends, and that's for life. Who stay traveling? I'm talking worldwide, 65 countries between the two. Every moment is so unbelievable. Sharing the best kept secrets about the trips and mistakes they made that they can't forget. So tell me if you're ready for a time to remember as they gear up for the next adventure. Yeah. Woo! Best kept secrets travel.
In today's episode, we are interviewing Ben. He's 26 years old and from the northeast of England. Ben has so far travelled to a whopping 37 countries and is looking to explore many more. Morgan met Ben at a bus stop in Italy as they both tried to stop a drunk man harassing a woman at a bus stop. Ben and Morgan then went on to San Marino together and explored this little hidden gem.
So I guess, Ben, firstly, the first question will be, what did you think of San Marino and was it what you expected?
It actually wasn't what I expected. Definitely not. But
what did you expect?
It exceeded all of my expectations. I expected sort of like this. I don't know.
Small.
This. It's hard to explain that. I don't know what. Yes, this. I knew it was like this small independent country within Italy, but I just thought it was like more of like a. Like more civilized, not civilized, like more of a bigger community rather than. I suppose we didn't get to explore the whole of San Marino. It was mainly sort of just that the castle, which I would have liked to have delved more into the actual town to know like the to understand the town more than just the tourist part.
Yeah, that
but it
makes
was like
sense.
this old medieval. Yeah, castle. It's kind of just a place to go to see this castle. Yeah,
It was a lot prettier than I expected.
But it definitely, yeah, definitely. It was very picturesque. Like for the photos, it was like, perfect backdrop. Like I remember you got that photo of. Looking back onto the castle. And I remember you standing up on the wall, like, nearly. Yeah.
I wasn't nearly falling off. I was fine.
No, you were comfortable. You kept on saying that, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I was.
So,
Yeah.
just so we can get to know you a little bit better, where is the weirdest place that you've ever slept during your travels?
Oh, the weirdest place I've ever slept. I don't actually know. Probably in a so I was in Uganda, and I did a safari tour. So I was in Kampala, which is the capital city, and we travelled like 6 hours to the Congo border, Murchison National Park, and you got to these it took 6 hours to get there, and then when you got there, you had to then spend another half an hour just driving to the camp, and the next day we were planning on doing a safari tour, and so we basically slept in this like tent. And it was like not like a glamping, but it had beds in it, with mosquito nets.
Yeah.
And there was like 2 bunk beds, so 4 beds in a tent. And it was absolutely incredible because when you woke up in the morning, there was like elephants, there was like flamingos, and you were kind of just woken by these by the nature.
That's amazing.
It was such an experience.
Do you prefer a window seat or an aisle seat on a plane?
the aisle seat, actually, just because I like
More
to
leg room?
stretch my legs, and I feel like you can do that. You know, when the trolleys aren't running up and down the aisle, you can kind of get a good amount of like your legs stretched out, and you get first choice at the little the mini bar.
That's true. Would you rather explore the deepest part of the ocean or the deepest part of space?
The deepest part of space.
Would you rather be the last person on Earth or be the first person on Mars, but you'll never be able to come back home?
So the last person on Earth or the first person on Mars?
Yep.
The last person on Earth. I think so, yeah. I like my own company.
No.
So you've got 3 countries, and you either visit,
Yeah.
never visit, or live in, and it's Austria, the Netherlands, or Switzerland.
Oh, that's a tough one. So, never visit Austria, live in Switzerland, and visit the Netherlands.
Okay, that's fair enough. Good choices. So now we'll move on to some of the main questions. That was a little bit to break the ice just to start with. So the first question we've got here. Yeah? Have you ever been scammed whilst travelling? And if so, how would you avoid it next time?
Yeah. So I got. I was traveling in Serbia. So I went for I think 3 days. Just kind of wung it, you know, as it went along. As you do, just kind of just turned up at the airport, got a taxi, and headed into the city centre. That was all well and good, so I kind of had an idea of like roughly how much it cost to go to the airport. So I had 2 days in Serbia, just doing, you know, exploring stuff and seeing stuff. And I was actually walking through the park one day, and there was like a crowd of people, and there was a guy playing chess with people. And I'm a huge chess fan, so I was watching him, and he was kind of okay. He was, you know, not great, but you know, okay. I left. I went and explored the park, and I came back, and I wanted to have a look again, see what was going on. There's a different guy playing, so I was like, okay, I'll give this guy a run for his money. So we had a game of chess, and I beat him with ease, no problem. And then he was like asking me for a second game, so I was like, okay, yeah. So the second game was a little bit harder. There was a few blunders and so forth, and I really thought like, oh, this is getting a bit difficult. And then he made a stupid mistake, and it kind of lost him the game, and I checkmated him. So he almost won, but I beat him. And then the third time he was like, no. I was like, right, I'm leaving. Nice to meet you. And he's like, no, come, stay. Let's play for money. So it was like, I've forgotten how many dinars it was, but it was like equivalent to like €20. So I bet him €20 to win. And then we had a game of chess, and it was the best chess player I've ever played in my whole entire life. It's just like the game lasted about 5 minutes before he won. And obviously that's what he does. That's how he makes his money in the park every day, hoping that tourists just come and fall for this trick that he's like really crap at chess, and then gets you to bet money, and then. Of course, that could have just been a coincidence, but obviously.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would avoid that. Just don't bet money in the street, I suppose. But yeah, it was still fun. So later on that weekend, I got sort of scammed in the taxi as well on the way back to the airport. I got kind of scammed twice actually. So I shared a taxi with somebody on back to the hotel that I was staying at, and the person that I was sharing the taxi with, she was half Croatian, I think, half Serbian, so she obviously could speak the language, but she was speaking with me in English, and this guy just assumed that she was English, the taxi driver, and when the fee came, it was like extortionate, like hugely extortionate, and I would have just paid because I wouldn't have known how much it would have cost to get from A to B at that time of the night and so forth. And this person was like, no, like it was like almost like €30 more than what it should have been, and I didn't pick up on that, and she did. So luckily, I didn't need to. I kind of got away with that one. But then after the trip, and I was on my way back to the airport, I asked the guy, I asked the taxi driver, can I pay on my card? Because I didn't have any dinas left, and I didn't want to take any more money out. And he says, yeah, no problem. So we're like 10 minutes away from the airport in the taxi, and he turns around and says, by the way, you can't pay on your card. And I said, well, you just said that I wouldn't have got in the car if I would have went to the bank when we were in the city centre. And he says, no problem, I'll take you to the bank. So he took me to the bank in the middle of like nowhere. It was like outside of town, and he hands down just said to us like, there's a premium you have to pay now because I've took you to the bank. I'm going to want, I forgot how many dinas it was, but he basically wanted all this extra money. Otherwise he was just going to leave me in this like industrial estate 10 minutes outside the airport, and I kind of was forced to kind of pay him up front. Otherwise I would have missed my flight, and yeah, kind of I was tied into it then. So
that's a nightmare.
I think it ended up costing me like, I think it ended up costing me like, I think £100 or something to go to the airport when it should have cost like 30. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Cause, and I, by the way, at the time, I think this is maybe advice for somebody who's traveling, like is learn the currency. Because this is a mistake I've learned a few times. Like, I generally just don't know the currency, so you don't know how much stuff is, so you just pay, and obviously the bank machine tells you how much like the conversion is and stuff, but yeah. So when I actually looked at the currency, like the exchange on Google, to see actually how much I'd paid him, it was like £100. I was like, oh my god, what an idiot.
Ben, have you ever been in any dangerous situations whilst you're travelling, and how did you find your way out of it?
Yeah, so dangerous situations. I was in a bar in Uganda, and there was a guy came up to me, and he's like, I'll have one beer, and I was like, he said to the bartender, he said, I'll have one beer, and I'm like, he was being so rude, and like, I'm like, no, I don't want to. If he'd asked me, and I would have bought him a beer, no problem. But it was the way he approached it. I was like, no, I'm not giving in to that. I just didn't like his attitude, so I was like, no, don't. I said to the bartender, like, don't buy this guy a beer. And he was like, kept on insisting, like, no, he's going to buy me a beer, he's going to buy me a beer. And he went on and on. and I had to make it really clear to the bartender, like, do not charge me for a beer for him. So I got like 10. I was with a group of people, so we got like 10 beers and a bottle of whiskey kind of to share. So I went over with these drinks to the table, and the guy was like giving me like, you know, like the staring at me and said like, "Oh, you're gonna regret this." So he actually came over to the table that my friends were at and started drinking the whiskey that I had bought and the beers that I had bought. So I didn't react or anything. I just let him go on with it. And I explained the situation to my friend, who, two of my friends are actually professional cricket players, and it was the reason why I was actually in Uganda to visit them. So they were playing like 10 years ago for Uganda in the World Cup for Ugandan cricket. So they're like at high level sport, and they actually knew this guy. He was Ugandan's champion tennis player. So this person had like sort of lost his touch and took to drink and alcohol and drugs, and kind of just fell off the bandwagon and became an arsehole, basically. And sorry if I swear there. But yeah,
Okay.
so I just let him get on with whatever he needed to do. And a friend of mine, they were leaving, so we went out to the car to wait, because we never used to go anywhere like alone. We always used to go in pairs. So we went out to the street, and they got in the car, and this guy and a group of people actually followed me out, and I knew, so like we kept on walking, and they made a phone call and said because the cousin was picking them up, and said, "Oh yeah, just like go to the next street along. We're just going to keep on walking because we feel like we're being followed." So we kept on walking, and they kept on following us. So we tried to lose them and like go down a couple of turns and stuff, and they followed us down this alleyway, and there was like 5-6 men following us down this alleyway, just because I assumed, because I would refuse to buy them a drink, and it was the kind of the attitude maybe that I give them. So I was like really, really kind of panicking at this point. So the car turned up anyways, and I was like, said to the guy, the cousin of my friend, was like just let me in this car. Let's just drive around the block until these people like go back and get away from them. So he ended up dropping me back off at the front of this club and walked back inside, and I was kind of safe again. But yeah, I can recommend, when you're in places like that, don't ever go anywhere alone, or always try and avoid conflict like that, to the best of your ability. But yeah, that was in another situation I had in Uganda as well. Was I was driving one night, and so we would like take turns to drive home, because like the club was like way out into the sticks, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. So we were driving back to the apartment, and there was like 3 or 4 cars that we all kind of had, because we would over there. There's no kind of thing as like a hire car company sort of thing. You just hire a car off whoever has a car kind of thing, and you pay them cash, and there's no sort of insurance kind of goes on or anything like that. And so these friends of mine, they had a friend who had a car, and they had a friend who had a car. So there was like 3-4 cars overall that we used to just share. So I'd been using this people carrier to get around, this beige people carrier, and one night it took a different car. So the Airbnb that we were staying at, there was a guard who would there was 2 guards that used to work on rotation shift, and one of the guys was called Alfred, and every time I went past or every time I went into the gate, he would have to unlock the gate. And this compound was like wrapped with razor wire, and I used to just like kind of pay him and give him like a little tip him to like looking after the place sort of thing. And we used to give him fruit and all sorts of like stuff. So like we had a bit of a good connection. Like we'd give each other the nod every time we walked past each other. And this one night when we was driving back at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, I pulled up to the gate. Sorry. And he didn't recognise the car, so he was half asleep on the chair, you could see him. So he shot up from his chair, and he had a blooming AK-47 on his lap, and he ran over to the gate, and he pointed it in the window of the car, and I was like so stunned. I like, honest to God, I'd never been in a situation like that before. So I wound down the window, and then he realised it was me, and he was like ever so like apologetic after that. He was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Ben, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." And my heart's like jumping out of my chest at this point. I think, oh my God, I just had a fucking the blooming AK-47 pointed in my head. Like, Jesus Christ, you know?
Yeah. So the first question I have is, what does it actually feel like in the moment when you have that gun in your face? Does your life flash before your eyes?
I don't know. It's just it's like a shock, I suppose. You don't really. I kind of felt safe in a way, because as soon as I seen him before, I know that sounds crazy, but I seen who it was, and I knew that he'd done it out sporadically because he didn't know who I was, because the window was slightly tinted.
Wow, that was.
I can't imagine what it's like being in Ben's position just then.
No, I'm not quite sure how I'd react. Like you just freeze, wouldn't you?
I don't know if you have time to process that whole life flashes before your eyes, because in that split second, the good thing is he saw it coming.
Yeah. If it was a shock, then if you didn't see it coming, that would have been. I mean, it was definitely a shock, but
I don't know how
Wow.
I react. I want to know how all of you viewers and listeners react to. That's insane.
And it's so good. And we've spoken multiple times about how good this and how fun this interview was, that we actually kept talking for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
So for that very reason, we're actually splitting this interview up, and we have mentioned this, into 2 parts. And that was the end of part 1.
So come back next week for part 2.
Roll the outro.
Yeah, let's make it happen. I hope that you can handle going on adventures, best kept secret travels. Yeah, all over the globe, having fun, you know the deal. Amazing secret locations, hang out with Morgan and Will. Educate and entertain, haggle in the market, sharing their experiences. Time to get it started. Let's go.